Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm so happy you're here today, and I hope that I bring a little bit of insight to your life each week. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you've been here for all the episodes, welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. I'm always going to say that because I am truly grateful because you're spending your time with me and you could be doing anything else. So just wanted to give you some love for tuning in. And just so you know, I say this lots of times, but the chickens in the background, if you hear any roosters crowing or any weird noises, I do have animals. We have chickens, ducks, turkeys, and right on cue, there was just a rooster crow in the background. So you may not even notice it, but if you do, just know that that is a unique thing about me, is that we do have animals and farm animals that you may hear in the background. So, but today's episode is not about farm animals. It is actually about fear. And it's about helping your daughter turn mistakes into growth moments. And I think about all the times where even as adults, we make a mistake and we're so hard on ourselves, It's like we think that we should never make any mistakes. And that's not the case ever. If you ever listen to anyone's success story or just anyone you admire, they never have a perfect path and they make all kinds of mistakes and have all kinds of failures. And that's easy logically to notice and be aware of, but it's hard when it's you, because in the moment it feels like you're the only one this has ever happened to. And I think about this with girls because this is something that is very common. And I notice this a lot in all of my experience in teaching, over 23 years and working with girls and Girls Positivity Club. And I really do notice that there are certain girls who look at mistakes as opportunities to grow and like, okay, I'm not going to do that next time. I'm going to try this instead. And then other girls who make a mistake and it makes them small and it makes them afraid to make a mistake again. And this doesn't necessarily mean that those girls have low self-esteem or anything like that, but it can also be with girls who want to be perfect. And I think about, a girl that I know who really does well in school, and lots of girls that I've known who've really done well in school. And the ones that they're in two categories. One is if they get like a 99%, their focus is on the 1% that they missed and they like dwell on that. Why didn't I get an A plus? What did I do wrong? Did I really get this wrong? And they like beat themselves up for the one or two questions that they, miss. Or are like, that is good. I made a lot of progress. Like I did way better than I did last time. And it isn't always like the kids who get straight A's all the time, and it's not always grades, but it could be like in sports. It could be in art. It could be, the girl who draws something and it's beautiful and she makes one little mistake and she throws the whole thing away. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. Like that was looking so good. And she was like, yeah, but I messed up on this one part. So I have to start over. So it's about making making your mistakes into something. So what I always say to the girls in Girls Positivity Club when I notice a girl doing that is make something out of your mistake. So if they make a mistake in their art, how can you make it part of the bigger picture? And I think that that's a good way to think about mistakes in life. And does it mean that I always do it perfectly? No, never. Does it mean every girl is going to do it perfectly? Of course not. But the more we can pour into them about this idea of looking at it as the bigger picture, and yes, in the moment it can be hard to do, but later being like, okay, you missed one on this math test. Next time you take it, you'll be more aware of those types of questions. Or maybe you haven't learned that yet, like completely well, and it's something to practice. Now, does that mean that she needs to obsessively practice about it? For some girls, that gives them comfort. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to learn it really well. And then that won't happen again. But I think the danger in that too is it can create fear about missing something again. And so it's about normalizing and telling them that it's okay if they miss this or if they're not perfect at it the first time. A lot of people, especially when they're really, I notice this a lot with my students, especially the girls, if they're normally really good at something, like reading, for example, and then I gave them a passage that was a little stretch out of their comfort zone, they started doubting, like, why is this hard? Reading's my thing. Like, I'm really good at reading. Why is this hard? It's like, you're growing. It's not supposed to all be easy. If it's all easy and you never have to work at anything, you're not really growing. And that's very uncomfortable to hear. And yes, there are some things that should be easy, but I think the more we can teach them that mistakes and things not being easy all the time are not a sign that you should give up. They are not a sign that you should be afraid to make a mistake or take a risk. Like, oh, I'm only going to do the safe things that I know how to do for sure. And I think about girls who've told me, I've asked this for multiple years. How many of you only raise your hand when you know the answer is correct? Like you have no doubt in your mind, it is 4 or whatever it is. Most of my girls, because they don't want to fail in front of others. They don't want to be seen as less than in front of others. And these are a variety of girls with a variety of confidence levels. And so it's not, I think we can sometimes have a misconception that it's only girls who struggle with confidence who have this happen. It's actually not true. Really confident girls can still feel like they're afraid of making mistakes. They can feel like they want to be good at everything. And what if they're not? What does that mean about them? And it's teaching them and having conversations around the fact that don't be afraid of mistakes. They are actually opportunities to grow and you will get better. The more you do this, you will get better. They always say practice makes progress. That's like the new saying, instead of practice makes perfect, because then if you practice something, you get good at it. You just go to the next level, right? And you want to just continue to improve and grow. So I think back about even myself, and in school, I desperately wanted to be a cheerleader. Like I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be on the court, on the, in the stands or whatever, and cheering on the school team. And I really was not very flexible. I really was not that good at gymnastics. I really was not good at the things that you need to be good at as a cheerleader. And it's not that if I thought that if I was a cheerleader, that would solve all my problems. And this is, of course, me reflecting back, lots of years later. And it's like, I think I wanted to be a cheerleader for the wrong reasons. I wanted to be a cheerleader because those were the girls that were accepted. Those were the girls that were well liked. Those were the girls that the boys liked. Those were the girls who everyone looked up to and who got to wear their uniforms to school. And it was like this status thing. And I think if I would have been, I hope that I would have been in the nice crowd where, there are some cheerleaders who are very, very friendly, very nice. And then there are some who use that as a status that appear to think that they're better than other people. And I'm doing a total stereotype. I love cheerleaders. I know a lot of cheerleaders who are amazing people. So please know that if you were a former cheerleader or your daughter is, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that she's a bad person or thinks, whatever. But in my mind, when I was in school, how I viewed the cheerleaders were this like high level status. And I think I always had this fantasy because I didn't know how to believe in myself and know what my strengths were. I thought that that was the only way to be accepted. And I wanted to have a makeover. It's like I had this fantasy of having the like a she's all that moment. And I mentioned this before, where it's like everyone would see me then. I would then be accepted. If I got to be a cheerleader, I would be in the crowd that was happier, was well liked, was all these things. So I like idealized what it was. And really, I wasn't skilled to be a cheerleader. I mean, I could have learned it. And so it's like, too, the idea of fear holding you back is like, okay, I wanted that so badly. And then I tried out and I was so terrified and I knew I wasn't super good at what I was doing. And so, I made mistakes in my routine that we had to do in front of judges. And then you're being judged, and then the girls are watching you and you feel inferior. I did at that time because it wasn't like an area of confidence, even though I wanted to do it so badly. I had the enthusiasm. But my whole point is like, what is it that is holding your daughter back about the thing? So for me, it was I stopped trying out for things after I didn't make cheerleading. So I wouldn't call it really a mistake of trying out, but I made the mistake of thinking that that was going to solve all my problems and my insecurities of getting to this status of whatever it was I thought it would be. And I think it goes back to like going to Colts games with my dad and seeing them on the field and looking at them and being like, wow, they feel great about themselves. Like, look how confident they are. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to is I wanted to feel confident in who I was and believe in myself and be part of an accepted group. But it wasn't my group. I made the mistake of thinking that that thing was going to fix things for me. And it really was a good thing that I didn't make cheerleading because it helped me figure out what my strengths really were. And I ended up doing dance classes later on, and that was more my thing. But, you know, I think even when I tried out when I was older, like I always wanted to be a Colts cheerleader because I went to games with my dad, NFL games and all of my life. And I really just wanted to be down on that field. It was just like a super cool thing. So even after not making cheerleading all through school, I decided to go to this class where you learned routines and it was like a prep class to try out for the Colts. And I went and the girls were like sizing me up. They were looking at me like, who is this girl? And I remember thinking like, oh, why are they looking at me? And then we started learning the routines, and I didn't learn choreography fast in a group. So I always took a little bit longer to do it. And I had a one-on-one teacher for dance. And so, the group setting was a little bit harder for me. So I used that, what had happened in the past of like thinking that that was going to solve everything for me and tried again when I was older. And it was like, that still wasn't going to solve things for me, and I ended up like leaving, feeling defeated and all this stuff. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And so it's like, what can I learn from this? Well, I can learn that if I really want something, I have to develop the skill in doing it. So I could have taken different classes to help me get better and improve and have a coach who knew what they were doing and to help me and a mentor along the way. And maybe could have, whatever, if I really wanted it, but I wanted it from the wrong reasons. And so sometimes the fear and holding us back is like mistakes in what we think that thing can give us. And then also literal mistakes when they're trying to do something and they make a mistake. It's like those two things, it's like two different types of fear that can hold you back from progressing toward what you want. And, the cheerleading example for me, I was never a cheerleader, and that's actually okay. Looking back, I learned a lot through that process, and it really does help me grow in ways that they're like, okay, how can I learn from this? Did I really need that to feel good about myself? No, I didn't. I needed to figure out a way that I could be in my zone of genius, in my strength, which ended up being teaching, and pour into that. And my goodness, I'm so thankful that I went into something I was super passionate about and I was really good at it. And I had positive impact on people because of it. So it's like the more we can have conversations with our girls about mistakes and about fear and pushing through fear and really reflecting on, like, is this the right thing for me? And for me it wasn't, but then I ended up finding my thing. I'm like, what am I really good at? Like, how could I use this to, okay, maybe this isn't my best thing, but I'm really good at helping people. I'm really good at teaching things. And so maybe I could have been involved in a mentor program. And that would have been like, wow, I'm really good at this. I can really help kids. And I think that having conversations around that is really crucial for your girls in your life. So, how can you do that? You might be asking. Well, one is to just have open communication about it. When there are mistakes, when they don't do something perfectly, you know, compliment their effort. Like, my mom could have said to me, honey, I know that that was hard for you, but you were so brave to get in front of all those people. And even though you weren't perfect at it, you tried anyway. And I'm so proud of you for that. So it's acknowledging those moments of effort, those moments of progress. In the case of the grades, the mom of the girl of the math test, it's like, look at what you did get right. Look at all the things you knew. Look at all the ways you showed you knew. And you'll get better at that other thing later. If you want a little extra help, that's fine, but you will get it the more you keep working at it in class. So don't worry about it, okay? You'll be okay. And then it's giving those supportive comments and teaching them how to have that growth mindset. Like, you may not have this now or yet, but you're taking steps in the direction of getting it. So it's like if they're wanting to do a new skill in something, no matter if it's academic or if it's social or if it's, singing in front of people. I've had beautiful singers that I've known who were afraid to sing in front of other people, and they really had a gift in singing. It's like taking baby steps of, like, singing in front of one person that you trust or your family, and then expanding it, maybe doing a video about it, or whatever. So there's always ways to teach her the growth mindset, which is there's always a way. Keep moving forward. There's progress. You're making progress, all these different ways that you can help her see that it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It doesn't mean you're never going to learn this thing. It just means you might need a little bit more time. And I remember, like, someone telling me one time, if you think about kids' development and their learning and their emotions and everything, and you think about fruit, which may sound weird, not every piece of fruit on the vine, if you think of like a grape or a blueberry or whatever, ripens at the same time. So it's like, it's okay. And to teach her too, like, it's okay if you seem to be making more mistakes than other people, or you're not getting it as fast as other people, because you will get it. You will get there. Believe that you will. You have to just keep trying, because the only way that they won't is if they give up and they never take a risk again. And that's not what we want for our girls. And then modeling that resilience. Tell her stories of when you've messed up, when you've made a mistake and you learned from it or you grew from it. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It can be in your adult life. Like, when's a time when you maybe did something that was a mistake and it turned out to be something good? Or what's a time where you made a mistake, it didn't feel good, but you used it to help you in the future? So giving her examples of how you've had that happen too can make her not feel alone. And even if you know of famous people, like, just think of someone that your daughter really admires. And whether it's a singer, whether it's an artist, whether it's an athlete or a teacher, anyone, and think like that they're really good at something, ask her if she thinks that they've always been perfect at it. And I bet she knows the answer. And you can always Google it and find examples of an area that your daughter is really interested in and find someone who's done really well and learn about their story. And guaranteed they've had struggles along the way. They've made mistakes. They've had fear where they've had to push through it. And so sharing stories, not only about you, but about people they admire as well. And it's asking if she's open to ideas. When she makes a mistake, it may not be in the moment, the time, like at that second when she makes a mistake, to really talk about ways to improve. And I think there's that balance of like not coming across as being super critical. It's more, are you open to some ideas? Like, do you want some help with how to improve this? Who would you want that from? And it might not be you. It might be, well, I really want to talk to my coach about this, or I really want to talk to my teacher about this and how I can improve this. And that's okay. Her knowing who she should go to is more important than us always being that person. And of course we want to be, but sometimes we're not. And that's perfectly fine too, as long as they know who they can go to. And it's encouraging that reflection. What do you think you did really well today in your game? What do you think you could improve? It's like posing those questions to her so that she starts to do that herself. Or what is something that you did really well on that was super easy on this test? And then she can talk about that. And then she might naturally say, yeah, but this other part was really hard. And it's saying something like, how can I support you in that? Would you like help on it, or do you want to try and figure it out on your own? And that again is giving that independence back and helping her be more reflective about, what do you need? And if she doesn't know, she can say, I don't know. And you can say, do you want some ideas? And then again, it puts that power back in her court, like where it's her having that ownership over it and knowing that she can actually make a change. And being open to that is really it's a progression. It depends on what the thing is, but it may take her some time to get there. But encouraging those reflective questions is really good. Normalizing it, making mistakes, that's another thing. It's like we all make mistakes. Again, have those conversations about it and celebrate her progress, even if it's tiny progress. Hey, you ran a little bit faster today. I noticed that. I saw you get to the other side much faster. And I'll never forget my brother-in-law when he was little. This is my very favorite, like, childhood memory of his. My father-in-law said to him, or they were talking about the baseball game afterwards, and his son had almost caught the ball, but he missed it. And my father-in-law was like, I was about to talk to him about how he should get under the ball more, and when he missed it, what to do next time and all this. And he was going to go into like that coaching mode where it's like, hey, you played a great game, but that one ball you missed, here's what you can do next time, with a good heart. But my brother-in-law said, hey, Dad, did you see I almost caught that ball? So he looked at it like, hey, I almost caught it. And he was like, I didn't have the heart to give any constructive feedback, because it was like he was so excited that he had almost caught it. So I thought, what a great mindset to have, is like, hey, I almost did that. I saw you almost made it that time. You're so close. And it's really flipping it to, instead of saying like, oh yeah, I saw you miss that, whatever it is. Oh yeah, I saw you miss those few questions, or yeah, I saw that you missed this, or whatever. It's like, hey, you're close. You're getting closer every time. That gives them the encouragement, like, yes, I am. And then they start thinking about it in that positive way. It's like, I can do this, even if it's one little tiny thing. And that increases, these are the outcomes of this. That increases her confidence when she overcomes challenges, when she sees that she learns from mistakes. It improves her confidence. It improves her problem solving. So the next time, by looking at mistakes as opportunities to grow and learn, it's like, next time, what could I do differently? And that's a good problem solving, like critical thinking outcome of this. So it increases her confidence by thinking through, how can I use that fear to help me next time? Or how can I learn from that mistake and do better next time, or take another like little baby step forward of doing better next time? It also helps her think of it in new ways, maybe even outside the box. And that's when you can also ask if she wants ideas. And sometimes she may, and sometimes she may not. Another positive outcome of this is feeling more empowered and more in control. So by taking ownership and feeling more, knowing that her mistakes aren't always, yes, they don't always feel good, but there are ways that she's growing, that can help her feel more empowered and more in control. Like, okay, next time I can do this. And that feels more in control than thinking, I don't ever know what I could do. And in the beginning, your daughter may need a little bit more support in figuring out what that looks like and how things are. She could try, like what things she could try. But I think the more we can help train her brain to look for, how can I learn from this? How can I grow? This is part of it. No one ever does everything perfectly. The more she'll see that she can do it and that she is in control of trying something different the next time and seeing a better outcome. And also telling her that you're proud of her for that effort. I think that's so, so important. The more we can tell them that we see them in their progress, we see them in their effort. We know that they don't have to be perfect. And I think the more we can say that to them, even if we think they know that, the better. And I think you may be surprised by what a huge impact that is and how you'll see her mindset change over time and with practice with this. This isn't something that's going to be overnight if you have a girl that usually looks at the glass half empty. And there are some people that is their default. They tend to do that. But there are always ways to open that up and to get her to see a different perspective. And it always comes back to is she open to it? And I think you may be surprised that even though mistakes may feel scary, when you have these conversations and you empower her to see it as the bigger picture, what can I make of this? Like in the art example, I made a mistake. How can I work this into the bigger picture of this? The more she's going to see that she can do anything and that mistakes and fear don't have to hold her back. So I hope this was helpful for you. Please let me know if there is anything that you have tried with your daughter, with the girls in your life, with making mistakes that have been helpful. I'd love to pass that on to our community. And please follow us on social media. And if you like to watch this on YouTube and you like to see a video of the podcast, here I am. And as always, thanks so much for listening and keep raising those confident girls. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.